I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker, who is a very accomplished executive coach, a Marine Corps officer, and a retired FBI agent, Robin Dreeke. He has transitioned his expertise to a unique interpersonal communication strategy and has worked with executives, the military, and he helps them forge trust, solve challenges, and lead through unstoppable alliances. Thank you so much. Please join us up here. Thank you, Robin.
So what a fantastic person to follow with Adam. Very tough to follow up on that. And first of all, my group from last night I sat with for dinner, show of hands. I want to give a great thanks for allowing the extrovert to talk at you completely opposite of everything I'm going to do right now, because living in an introverted world, working at home, reading books, I very rarely get an opportunity to interact with such amazing individuals that, one, read similar books, interact the same way, so it's been tremendous so far. So thank you for all the energy everyone gave me last night. I'm truly appreciative of it. A few things I wrote down on my note cards. This key phrase is really the most important bedrock of everything we do in life. And when we approach every situation and every individual in this way, we can create, and I love how y'all wove in Unstoppable Alliances, which is the title of the new book. And everything that Adam said, which boy, that was fantastic. He really validated my life and how I'm living right now. As I walk 3 times a day, I swim every morning to unclog the mind of everything I'm doing. And I don't even consider myself a creative at all, but it's how do you solve problems by getting unstopped, by doing those things that when you look at life as a glass half full and you're not a wound collector and you keep a scorecard against others and or just become a problem solver, you take everything that comes your way and you say, all right, what now? What am I going to do with this? And COVID was that. As Udian and I were just saying, it was like 2 or 3 years of our lives are just like erased. But big things happened during those times. If you saw life as a half full kind of thing, it's like, what do I do with this? And I discovered I know nothing, because I started voraciously consuming knowledge and books, which humbled me even more. It unlocked a lot of potential, and it forged new alliances in new ways. And when you embrace those things, you can go forward. And really, that theme of I know nothing it's a motto that we have if you're going to be a fantastic interviewer and recruiter of spies, and I'll have you all do a little thing with that as we go through this. Because when you approach every individual as if I know nothing, you can let go of the most challenging thing we have genetically and as evolutionary biology has, and that is our confirmation biases. They rule everything we do in life, and you can't get over it. It's not good or bad, it just is. I'm a big believer in there is no good or bad, there just is. What are you going to do with it? And our confirmation biases start with our origins and our arc of life, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. Things that we were chatting about last night that sparked, that inspired us to who we are today. Everyone has an amazing journey that you're all on that allowed us to all arrive here today. And understanding that early spark is part of our arc. And when we see that arc with that unconfirmation bias ways which we can as a new child, just walking out the door when you're 4 or 5 years old and you look up at the sky for the first time saying, why is that blue? And you're open to everything coming in. And so when you engage every human being like that, you can create unstoppable alliances, you can create great trust, which forges forward in absolutely everything you want to do in life. And so what I'm going to share with you all in my brief time with you all today is the arc of things I've done. What year did you say was here? 2016? 2016, I was here last. I did a COVID year with you all virtually as well. And wow, time tremendously flies by. But the things I've written about over time is, it started out with rapport. This was my first book in 2010, 2011. And from rapport, I realized, wow, that's just kind of as I was saying a few minutes ago, those are the carnival tricks at the lower level, the first 30 seconds of engagement. I say carnival tricks is kind of cheapens it, but it's not. And from there, what do you get from rapport? Well, you have trust, and trust is our behaviors that we need to display to others to inspire someone to want to have an alliance with us and trust us. And from there, I kind of reverse it. It's like, wow, if I do these behaviors, I can start interpreting your behavior, and I can pretty much predict what you're going to do. You're always going to act in your own best interest in terms of your safety, security, and prosperity for you and those you care about in your life. My job is just to figure out what you think that is. I now can predict your behavior, because that is what we do as human beings. We act in our own best interest. And so that was sizing people up. And then when you put all that together, we arrive at my arc in life today. which is when you put all these things together, what's the whole purpose of rapport, trust, understanding you at a deeper level? Alliances. The only way we solve problems in life is together. 100%, whether it's business, personal, I don't care what it was. And it's not just together, it's strong, healthy relationships. And how do you have a strong, healthy relationship? It can be and it is a very subjective art form. And that's what I love about this gathering today. This is a group that moves beyond the carnival tricks, I gotta stop cheapening it, of the entry level, what we do when we just start out in our careers and our lives and we start learning how to do these tactics and strategies and techniques for engaging human beings. We're at the mastery level. This is where that exchange of ideas comes in. It's like, hey, here's what I'm doing here, here's what I'm doing here. And so I'm going to infuse all that today. And oh my gosh, have I loved our conversations we've had about ChatGPT as well. I'm going to give a little bit of my collaboration, forming alliances with ChatGPT. My recent book, Unstoppable Alliances, was a collaboration with who I call Caesar. Caesar is my ChatGPT. And I'll give you the actual script I use to help create my ideas with a writer. And so it's an interesting collaboration, and I literally, as I was sitting here, and I apologize because I got an email and I was waiting for the FBI to give me the final pre-publication review authority for the book, and it just came in. And it was the first time they've actually gave an authority for someone to actually use ChatGPT as a collaboration. And it wasn't he did not write this book because this is about my ideas. It just helped me write because I'm not a great writer. But ChatGPT was a much better writer. But anyway, I'll get into that. So I want to thank you all for having me back. And here we go. That same jacket, by the way. We'll see if this title should hold. I'm praying it holds. I'm in the middle of landing with the publisher right now. We have multiple backups, but I'm liking that infinity sign because infinity sign is eternal. And is also, if you turn it this way, it's 8. And I have 8 principles of unstoppable alliances. So it's a little play on words there. The impact of our life arc. So one of the most common questions I have and get when engaging someone is the challenge that people have with how do I get to know someone? How do I form alliances? How do I form bonds with people? How do I start inspiring that life arc of trust? And people keep thinking there's things you have to memorize and things you have to do. But always remember this. For everything you're trying to remember that you need to say is 1 second less of listening to what it is they want to say. I am an anti-script guy. Adam's agreed to come on my show, not putting pressure on him if he wants to say no. I have a Forged by Trust podcast, and I do it once a month now. I was doing weekly, but I have to focus on one thing at a time. One thing at a time. We cannot multitask as human beings, no matter what people will tell you. One thing at a time this brain is geared for. You can do a lot of things really half-assed, or you can do one thing as deeply as possible. And so when you come on a show, there's going to be one question. What was that spark to inspire who you are today? And we just go where he wants to go. And we fill out nooks and crannies. Because when you can start discovering that life arc, what do people want to share? Who they are, that journey. But they want to only share what they're willing to share. And so it's not even just having curiosity about what it is you want to know. That's still about you. Take it to the next level. Have curiosity about what it is that they want to share. And that's where it all kind of starts. And so when you start discovering that life arc, what I've seen is, again, talking about the discovery process you're seeing, I started doing a podcast because a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you do a podcast? I think it'd be a good idea. And I literally was stuck. I was having a challenge. I knew I had this next book in my mind for like 5 years. I've done a lot of research, which is nonstop reading, about 60 or 70 books a year. And I got all this information coming in, but I don't know how to get it out. Something's kind of stuck. And so I said, well, let me do a podcast. And I started out doing a podcast, and I'll tell you what, you ever want to get better at something, get the reps in and edit yourself. I was editing myself every single week after I interview someone, and I'll tell you what, you get a lot better when you see how much you suck. And you edit yourself, you get better. But part of that life arc was that. I started asking just one question. What was that inspiration that started all those years ago when you were growing up that you thought helped you arrive to who you are today? And they would pick their starting point. I said, well, where did you grow up? What was the inspiration for that? And I focused on those key things. What questions? I'm talking about that a lot too. And Michael Bungay Stanier wrote The Coaching Habit, world famous guy. I actually had him on my podcast. And you take great nuggets out of every single thing you read and every single thing you consume. And one of the greatest things he came up with, amongst many, is the what question. Why questions kind of can put people on their guards and put guards up because it can make people defensive. But when you ask what questions, it keeps the cognitive mind engaged. And so when you can start asking the what questions, like what happened next? What was the inspiration for that? What were you hoping to achieve? It's a really powerful way to engage someone because it helps their cognitive mind stay engaged and shows that what? You are curious about things that they want to share in the way that they want to share it. And I statements. Don't do what Robin did last night, thinking about what I want to share and what I want to talk about. But the I statements, if you can avoid them, it's fantastic to keep the focus on the other person. And if you do use an I statement, as long as the focus is on them, it's fantastic. Strangely enough, one of the biographies I just read, because the movie's coming out in November, my son is a military history buff. I read Napoleon. And when the world hears the name Napoleon, again, the context of the conqueror gives a negative connotation. I'll tell you, read Napoleon's biography, you get a whole different context of him. But one thing that I discovered when reading his book, really profound little nugget that really impacted me. Life is about dichotomies. You can't experience greatness unless you experience failure. You can't enjoy beautiful human interactions unless we've been through COVID. So life is everything about a dichotomy. And the dichotomy, I always thought, was about making it about you. Always got to make it about you. Always got to make it about you. But there's an opposite side of that, too. So if I'm always asking about you and you're always talking, that dichotomy is out of balance. So I do need to do some talking. But if I can not just talk about me, but if I can be interesting to you, that can actually bring it into balance. So actually, that's what Napoleon did. Napoleon was so well read that he gave up his salary when he was a cadet, and he only ate one meal a day so he could buy books. He studied history relentlessly. And so he's an extremely interesting person, but he's also extremely curious. So he's always curious about you. And when he actually left Melba and sailed to southern France and became emperor again, that's not someone who's actually being a tyrant. That's someone who actually inspired people to follow him. And why? When he's traveling on that boat, his soldiers are asking him questions, and he wasn't saying how great he was. He's telling them about things and people in the world that were interesting to them. I thought it an interesting dichotomy. So it's about being interested in others and also being interesting to others by making and talking in terms of context and information that the other people want to consume that can value them. In other words, be an informer and not a me-former. So here's our time together. Oh, that's quick. Focus on being present with others. That is the greatest gift we can give any human being, is being present. I do a lot of stuff on news. If anyone watches News Nation, I do a lot of true crime kind of commentary when people escape prisons, and which is funny because that's not what I did in my career, but it's the human behavior side. And when the Pennsylvania Cavalcante escaped, I did a lot of commentary on him. And law enforcement is always saying, when you leave your home or you come back to your home, be diligent. And so that's a nice subjective thing. Hey, be diligent, go. What's that mean? So I love defining things, what be diligent is. And so this is what being present is. So all I was saying was, when you do anything in life, and especially if you've got an escaped convict around your house, don't multitask. When you're in the moment, drop it all. You cannot multitask. So when you leave your home in that situation, I said, for 15 seconds, when you walk outside that door, nothing. Observe, be present in the now. Eckhart Tolle, one of my other favorite authors, just the power of now. Be present in the now. Take it all in. Don't try to see something, because when you try to see something, you'll miss everything else. You're giving yourself a confirmation bias. Be present. And then when you come home, before you enter the home, same thing. That way you'll notice anything that might stand out because you are present. When you're with a human being, engaging as a new child, be present. No agenda. People can see the agenda. Be curious. You hear someone say something that you either haven't heard before or is contrary to anything you have ever heard before. Maybe not even your ethics, morals, or beliefs. What an awesome opportunity. Brene Brown. If you don't understand someone, good, get closer. Fantastic opportunity. So that's the kind of presence that you need to have if you're going to form unstoppable alliances. These are the only things you can do you'll never get over your own biases. It's impossible. But there's things we can do to help counter them, especially the loving critics in life and the people in our lives that you had mentioned, that can help us spur things. Loving critics are fantastic for that. These are the people that are vested in our success, but not tied to our outcomes. We had our own confirmation bias because when we're tied to our outcomes, we rationalize the hell out of everything that's happening at that point. So those loving critics in our lives that can help that. We'll hit on how to, and I'll tell you, I am not the authority on ChatGPT or AI. I've had amazing conversations. I can tell you how I've employed it myself, and it took a long time. It literally took me 6 months to figure out exactly how I was going to partner with this technology as a collaborator. I totally viewed the technology as a human being collaborator. To collaborate to actually produce what I needed to produce, totally my voice, totally my words, totally my thoughts. And so ChatGPT gave me no innovation. It helped me write better. Ask me the questions I didn't know how to ask myself. And so that's I'll tell you how I walk through that. And I need more afterwards if you want. Moving beyond natural talent and getting your reps in. I am another favorite author of mine, Robert Greene, wrote numerous books that I did not like at first, especially 48 Laws of Power. It's a narcissist guidebook. There's even a chapter in there on how to create a cult. But is a fantastic book on understanding human behavior. The other one that I love is The Laws of Human Nature, and the other one is Mastery. I love Mastery. Mastery, another author, Joshua Medcalf, wrote Chop Wood, Carry Water, and Pound the Stone. And it's about, and Ruth and I talk about this all the time, it's about falling in love with the process and not the destination. Engaging human beings and creating unstoppable alliances is falling in love with the process of engaging a human being. The outcome be what it will be. Forging trust, creating allies. All right, the path to all this, high school dreams. So everyone asks, so Robin, how did you get to be the chief of the FBI Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, recruiting spies and all that? Sounds pretty cool. That life arc started when there's me in high school. I know, I didn't really change a whole lot, did I? The hair's the same. It's hair genes. I'm so lucky. I wanted to be an astronaut. So life went completely sideways. And those heard me before. It's a common story I have that I tell. I love telling. It was, well, I had to take the SATs 7 times to get in the Naval Academy. And that's not someone you let major in aerospace engineering. I graduated high school. I was supposed to graduate in '86, but I'm the November birthday, so my mom held me back. So I'm an '87 grad. Top Gun had just come out, which I was so mad because all the applicants to Naval Academy skyrocketed. And which put me in, so it took me an extra year to get in, and then I majored in aerospace engineering, which went sideways very rapidly. Major in political science, which literally majored in graduation. My eyes went to 2030, although they're 2020 now, go figure. So I couldn't fly. They put me on a boat during the summer. That sucked, and so I was like, I'm going Marine Corps. So everything went completely sideways. But it's part of that life arc, which is grit, resilience, tenacity, type A hard charger, which is fine. But it's also a road to destruction because when you are grit, resilience, and we're survival mode, we're not thinking about collaborating proactively. We're thinking about survival, which is me, 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 me. And so there's a couple life lessons I came along the way. The fun part there, my wife and I have been married over 30 years now. That's us in 1992, 3. The fun thing is I don't have the picture up there. I'm proud parent syndrome, as y'all that interact with me know. My daughter's a labor and delivery nurse in Northern Virginia at Inova Fair Oaks. And my son is a Marine Corps officer, a pilot in pilot training going through Pensacola right now. And he wears that same uniform right now. He's the same size as me, and that's my best friend. And so it's really cool that he actually has everything I have. Talk about crazy, unusual. And that's New York City on 9/11. That's in Manhattan during 9/11. So I come in the FBI in 1997, get assigned to New York field office. I get assigned to work counterintelligence, recruiting spies. No idea what that meant. Get to it later on. So here's the first aha moments out of many in life. I'm assigned as a Marine Corps officer at Cherry Point, North Carolina, and I thought I was life's natural born leader. I thought I had the talent for leadership. Why? Well, look at me. I'm gregarious, I'm outgoing, I love people. I love to talk nonstop. Is that about me or is that about others? It's about this guy. I was popular in high school, class president, sports teams captain, all those things they say are leadership. Nah, it's a wrong definition. So I get to Cherry Point, North Carolina, my first squadron, and Marines are really good at picking out BS. And so I get ranked last. 14 out of 14 out of second lieutenants. Humbling moments in life. I have only one attribute in my life I've actually relied upon, and I got it from my parents because my parents were not wound collectors either, and I owned it. Before Jocko Willink and Leif Babin came out with extreme ownership, I owned it. I went to my major and said, what am I doing wrong? I get it, I suck. He goes, that's easy, be a better leader. Huh? I thought I was. Context, if we live in our own context, those words are meaningless. I said, okay, I'm not a good leader. How do I be a better leader? He goes, that's easy too. Make it about everyone else but yourself. Hurtful words. to someone who cares deeply about people. I have deep empathy. But the muscle reps I had were survival. My parents had still never owned a home. I chopped wood and cut grass to grow up. We had no furnace. I had a wood-burning stove to keep warm in northern New York. And so those are resilient, gritty things. And so that's life of reps of survival. Me. Get in the Naval Academy. Get through the Naval Academy. I went to 4 academic review boards. I had to create alliances just to stay in. So I had reps in this, but no cognitive thought process of what I was doing. And so he threw down that gauntlet. Make it about everyone else but yourself. And here's the 4 things that he couldn't tell me language-wise back then that was my life path to try to discover. How do you make it about someone else? The keys to communication, which is really the keys to forging and creating unstoppable alliances. How do you make a conversation about others? It's just like someone says, develop rapport, go. No, there's actually a process of rapport, but it's an assumed knowledge. So here's the things. If you want to inspire, because I love that word inspire, you can't convince people of things. If I'm trying to convince you of something, to do something, to listen to me, to buy my product or anything, who's that about? Me. I love Robert Cialdini's work on influence, the 6 and 7 levers. Actually, the 8th is the community one he just added in the revised edition. Influence is a great word. Persuasion is a great word, but it's still, with someone who's hypersensitive to words, it's still about me. I like the word inspiration. Convincing, persuasion, influence is all about the things I want to have happen. Inspiration is about how do I figure out how to unlock what's within you and see if I have a resource that aligns with it. So I love inspiration as the word, and that's why folks, instead of trying to think in terms of how do I convince someone to betray their country and work for the FBI, how do I inspire them to want to partner with me? That's a mindset shift. That is what I employ every time I do. So these keys of communication, focus on the other rather than yourself. And this is the dichotomy. When I read Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, one of those aha moments where you approach life as if I know nothing. So I'm reading the 48 Laws of Power. And at this point in life, I thought that leadership was a continuum. You're either really good at it on this side or you really suck at it over here, and you generally lie somewhere in the middle. And I realized one of those moments, because again, another book by Leif Babin and Jocko Willink was the dichotomy of leadership. And everything is this dichotomy, the yin, the yang. That's why I have the infinity symbol as well. And the dichotomy is between power and leadership. Because when I read the book of Power, it's all the behaviors you do to serve yourself, to control the situation, to control others, to get them to do things. Leadership is about service. It's not leadership about title and position. Totally agree with you. All Adam Grant stuff on Think Again. You reminded me a lot of Think Again. And Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And all these things are doing exactly the same thing. Leadership is about being of service to others, which is the opposite dichotomy of power. And what's power? How do we recognize power? Popularity. Look at me, look at me, look at me. When you look at social media, which is easy to look at, the people that you're following or that you're in your own little networks and groups, friends and family, are they me-formers or are they informers? Informers providing value and service to others to better their lives, or are they telling you, look at me, look at me, look at me? It's a fascinating dichotomy to look at. No right or wrong. You just start to see where people are falling on the dichotomy balance. And when you can start seeing where people fall, you can manage your expectations, you can create a good, healthy relationship, and you know exactly what vectors to engage in, what vectors you might want to avoid, because it's all about having those good, unstoppable alliances, which are forged by healthy relationships. So step 1 in the 4 keys of communication. And these are all the elusive obvious. Seek the thoughts and opinions of others instead of blurting out your own. Last night, I was telling nothing but all my thoughts and opinions about all the books we had read. I was blowing through. See, this is where self-awareness comes in. And also, human beings are never looking for perfection. They're looking for effort in owning the behavior. And the quote, it's a Shakespeare quote, actually. It was quoted at the very end of Elon Musk's book by Walter Isaacson I just finished. And I don't have my phone, it's right there. But it goes something like this. Even the greatest minds in the world are forged in a lot of failure and a lot of imperfection. And when you read a lot of biographies, you'll see all these great people, whether it's Einstein, who I love his book by Isaacson, or Benjamin Franklin, same thing, Leonardo da Vinci, all these people, the greatest in life that have ever lived, are forged with a lot of failure and a lot of imperfections. But what are you going to do about it? Are you placing blame, or are you owning the behavior and doing the best you can? So that's what all people are looking for. Seeking the thoughts and opinions of others It reverses it when I'm seeking yours instead of sharing mine. Even if there's something you want to inspire someone to listen to, even if you have a new policy you have to implement, say, here, I need you to do these 10 things, and this is a new policy we're putting out. As opposed to, hey, we have these 10 new things we've got to implement. What do you think about them? Language. One shift. It now makes it about you because I'm asking your thoughts and opinions about what I got to have you do anyway. We have to incorporate these things this week. What do you think about them? Did that change anything? It just changed his perception of how it was delivered. Made it about him. 2, talk in terms of priorities, challenges, and pain points of others. How do you find these things out? Life arc. What was the inspiration to have you arrive here today? Why did you join this company? How did you arrive here today? What kind of challenges did you have along the way? These are the greatest things in the world because when you're, as you know what publishers are looking for, what new pain point are you solving, and what unique way in which you're doing it no one's talking about before. Basically, how are you repackaging what the world's been doing for thousands of years in a way that no one's heard before from your context and background. That's exactly what this is. So if you're not solving a unique pain point or challenge or problem, you're wasting your breath. So people ask, Robin, how do you recruit a spy? You don't. You don't recruit anyone. You can't recruit anyone that's not in their mind that they already have a challenge, priority, or pain point they want solved, and you happen to be the person who can solve it. My job is to figure out which one of these intelligence officers that were Russians, so I worked against the Russian GRU in New York, my job was to recruit them. My job, in reality, was to figure out which one of these limited people, in other words, limited in the sense of I only had 25 potential clients that were intelligence officers working at the United Nations, thwarting our entire system here. My job is to figure out which one of them had challenges or priorities or pain points that I have resources to solve. In other words, they didn't want their children growing up under Putin's regime. They had grandparents, elderly, that didn't have medical care back there. They didn't agree with the oligarch that's running and ruining their country. All those are pain points. I have resources that can solve those pain points for them in their lives. Then, the first step is solving the pain point. The second step is, can I trust you with my life? Then you have to bring a balance of humility as a new child and confidence and competence that I can actually get the job done. More dichotomies coming in there. So when you put all these things together, again, simple concepts. And how do you get good at the simple things? Reps. Fall in love with the process of failure. You said fail fast. Who said it before, fail fast? Right, Elon Musk. Rapid, and I'm not like an Elon Musk fan. I just finished the book, so it's forefront of my mind. But it's rapid disassembly event. Explode. He likes exploding things really fast because that way we'll learn fast, move on. And if you don't, he'll just fire you. Leonardo da Vinci right there. So 3, non-judgmental validation and curiosity. This is the bedrock of everything. The greatest people I got my goosebumps thinking about it. The greatest people, just look at the face, the congruence here lighting up. The greatest people in history that we all know and love. And we've mentioned the names already. Leonardo da Vinci, Einstein, Franklin, and many, many others. Why do we know their names? Are there negative thoughts about any of them? Especially like Einstein and Leonardo da Vinci. Think about that. I've asked that question to every audience I've ever talked to. I've never met anyone yet, and I just came from Denmark in March, who our guests just did. I love Denmark. Oh my gosh, that's a great country. The food is phenomenal. But I asked that question everywhere. Everyone's heard these people. I've never heard a negative thing either. Why? So when I read Leonardo da Vinci, and also Walter Isaacson is just a fantastic author, I got into art. I also got into understanding what Leonardo's motivation, his why was, taking a three-dimensional world and be able to portray it in 2 dimensions in such a way. And so he explored every aspect of humanity so he could actually take 3 dimensions and make that beauty into 2. So why do we know these people? Why do we remember them in such ways? Curiosity. Non-judgmental curiosity. Just deep diving without judging. In other words, I'm going to find out all I can about you. And when I hear something I totally don't agree with or ever heard before, I get, wow, that's really interesting. Tell me more about that. That's why. It's an arc of the most successful people. And success to me is healthy remembrance and relationships. Ask yourself, so who do you light up for when they walk through that door? Like when they come into the room, you just light up. When you hear you're going to have a meeting with someone, you get excited. When you see the email come in, you can't wait to read it. When the text comes in, the same thing. When you got a Zoom call scheduled, who do you actually light up for? Ask yourself now, we do that Thought experiment, as Einstein says. Why? Why do you light up? They're curious about you. They want to hear your ideas. Do they not? Then ask yourself, reverse it. Do people light up when you walk into the room? What aren't you doing if they're not? What can you do more of? Remember, we're not perfect at all this. So it's a great thought experiment to ask. And it's this, curiosity. 4, we empower people with choices. You ever think I walked up to someone and said, cooperate with the United States government and betray your country or else? How well do you think that goes? It's one little word. It's a great, powerful word. If. If that's something you're comfortable with. If that's something you want to move forward with. If that's something your spouse agrees with. If it's a powerful word. When you empower people with choices, and they can't be too broad. My wife's a elementary school librarian, and we strategize human engagements all the time, trying to make the world around us an easier, copacetic place to be in. And so I told her about empowering with choices, and she said she talked to her coworker, Christy, and she said, Christy, whatever it is you want to do. I said, no. Too broad. Too much for the brain to cognate. 3 choices, maybe 2. Christy, we can do this, this, or this. What do you prefer? That's the kind of choice that we're talking about, if that's something you're comfortable with. Because when you're doing any one of these 4 things, seeking the thoughts and opinions of others, talking in terms of challenges, priorities, and pain points, validating non-judgmentally, and empowering them with choices, you include any one of those things, the entire conversation shifts from you to them, evolutionary biology kicks in, and we got dopamine going in the short term, hopefully oxytocin in the long term, and we are forging unbreakable alliances. There's a few other things in there. There's 8, obviously, that I talk about. There's a really powerful one, though, I really want to emphasize that have forged great alliances in my life. It's one of the reasons I'm here, is you. The things that Urian did that forged unbreakable alliances, like when you reached out to me what was my response? Happy to. I didn't even ask. I was like, I'm in. Why? It's called proactive resource in your life. When you discover and understand those challenges, priorities, and pain points in other people's lives, if you want an unbreakable alliance with someone, the next time you come across, when you give a name and label to things like someone else's challenges, priority, pain, when you make an effort to figure out what those things are, you'll remember them. You don't have to write them down. You will remember them because you made it about them. You weren't thinking about the agenda you're trying to achieve. When you think about your agenda, that's what you're going to remember. When you're thinking about my entire purpose here is to have no agenda, to be present, focus on what's important to you, what will happen is the next time you stumble across another relationship, another interaction, I'm talking to you, it's like, hey, can I introduce you to so-and-so? I met, about 3 months ago, this might be a good connection. Then out of the blue, you reach out to him and you say, hey, I know we haven't chatted in a while, but last time we chatted, we talked about this. Would you like an introduction? Is that not the most powerful thing in the world? And that's one interaction. So how do you assess people for trustworthiness? How do you assess people for unbreakable alliances? Proactive solving of resource problems. Whether it actually materializes or not, it's the effort of knowing what's important to someone else and being willing to engage and be a resource for them. I can name like 4 people in my life that do that. And boy, do I try to do that for others. Do I fall short? Absolutely, I fall short. But it's a fantastic trait for unstoppable alliances.
There's a theory on that, right? I mean, like, what do they call connectors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes, there's nothing new in anything I'm saying. We're repackaging. Actually, if you all want to take a great free course, my good friend Jordan Harbinger is a great podcaster. He's got a free 6-minute networking course on his website. And Jordan's one of the greatest networkers I know. Like out of the blue, he'll text me and say, hey, Rob, I've been thinking about you. What's going on? That's part of his checklist of what he goes to the bottom of his list on his cell phone, and he starts going through like a couple a week, just checking in with people, seeing what's going on, see what's new. You know what? I love Jordan. Why? Jordan asked me what's going on in my life. Has Jordan ever done anything for me? He had me on his podcast, but no. I love Jordan. Why? He's interested in me. But yeah, it's powerful stuff for the brain. Powerful. And would I do anything for Jordan? Jordan will call. Jordan has never called and offered me anything, except to come on a show. But he always has an ask. Like every now and then, Jordan will say, hey, Robin, I bumped into someone from the FBI says this. What do you think about that? Do I readily give an answer? Hell yeah. It's Jordan. Jordan cares about me. Jordan asks what's going on in my life. Do I know he's doing it intentionally? Absolutely. Because you know what? Each of us does things to overcome our weak points. People ask me all the time, Robin, are you doing it to me now? What, making it all about you? Yes, because I suck at it normally. Look, I'm self-centered. Because I care deeply about making sure I do it well. So yeah, the science is very solid on it. So let's apply this to recruiting a spy. So I told you all the little bit of background there. So how do you recruit a Russian spy? One, you solve a challenge prior to your pain point. You do so they can trust you with their lives. And it's a great challenge. So the first challenge is that limited base of about 25, 35 of them. I have a sales force of about 10 people on my squad in New York. And the first challenge is, who do you think out of that potential group wants to buy my service of American patriotism? Not many. It's worse than selling bad insurance. I mean, it is really tough. So that's the first challenge. Second challenge, cold calls are illegal. I cannot reach out proactively and say, hey, Igor, I'd love to have a conversation about the services I have to offer you. Illegal, because they're diplomats of the United Nations. Completely, so cold calls are illegal. And also, you try doing this when you started out in the FBI at 29 years old and they're all like in their 40s and 50s. Who are you, young guy? Get out of my face. So that's a challenge. So how do you do that? Well, you create art. Human interactions are art. The thing I loved most about what I did with the FBI, put everything else aside, is I created art, human interaction art every day. So I had this Russian general. This Russian general was working at the United Nations, and they assigned the tough cases I was starting to get senior, so I had the Russian general. I do my research. I collaborate with alliances, and we had great alliances, MI5, MI6, Australians, New Zealanders, the Five Eyes. We are tight, especially in the intelligence community. I go to my British counterparts. I said, hey, Nikolai here, I think he used to serve in the UK. I said, Robin, he did serve in the UK. Matter of fact, there's an American colonel, Air Force colonel, he was friends with. I said, well, what was his name? They give me his name. I look him up. Yep, he's retired down in Nashville, North Carolina. I reached out to the colonel in Nashville, Carolina. I said, Colonel, how are you doing? Do you remember working with Nikolai all those years ago? Yes, Robin, I do. I said, Colonel, would you be willing to help out, if that's something you're comfortable with doing something patriotic? Because remember, all I have to do, all I'm offering is an opportunity to do something patriotic, making it about him. He said, Robin, I could do that. I said, great. I just happened to find out Nikolai is going to Las Vegas. He's going there with his wife for vacation. Colonel, would you might be willing to travel to Las Vegas on the government dime and I'll give you a free vacation to bump into Nikolai? Okay, Robin, I'll do that. So a couple months goes by. I see where Nikolai's staying. He's going to be staying at the New York hotel. I fly my colonel out there with his wife. I said, Nikolai, Nikolai said, Colonel, here's a challenge. If you walk up to Nikolai himself and you initiate contact, he immediately, it's like, you get solicitors on LinkedIn all the time. You know they're not good. Although I'm going to reach out to you, so you just know now. Okay. So same thing. If you walk up to an intelligence officer and you initiate the conversation, you must be intelligence. I'll never talk to you again. So how do we manufacture my Russian general initiating contact with my colonel? Well, he's checking in the New York hotel. I put my colonel at the one-armed bandit right at the check-in counter. Nikolai walks up with his wife and goes, Colonel, is that you? My gosh, it is. What a coincidence. Art. They strike up a great conversation. My colonel is instructed to, hey, Nikolai, and this is September of the year, and he goes, I've never seen the beautiful fall foliage in New York, and I'd love to go to the Macy's Day Parade. And my general says, why don't you and your wife come be my guest in New York? He says, that'd be fantastic. Meanwhile, this is all completely orchestrated in my art form. We all do this for one human being, to try to put together the most beautiful conversation to see if he might want to buy my service, American patriotism. So my colonel comes to New York with his wife. They go out to a nice fine dinner on the government dime, of course. And as they're sitting down, the wives go up to go to the bathroom. My colonel leans into Nikolai and goes, Nikolai, I happen to have some friends, because State Department never allows us to say FBI, because they freak out. Diplomatic protest, blah, 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 blah. So my colonel leans in and says, I have some friends with U.S. Special Services, that's code for FBI, or CIA or anyone, that would love to have a conversation with you, especially about your retirement options. Nikolai goes like this, because now he sees, wow, look at this beautiful mosaic art form that's placed before me. Nikolai, all of a sudden you see the light bulbs come on, and Nikolai goes, huh. I'll tell you what. Why don't you tell your friends if they'd like to have a conversation with me, they can go through my protocol officer at the United Nations mission. Now, I hadn't heard this, so that's an interesting response, right? Wasn't that kind? Wasn't it nice? That's like, hey, that Mozart's really nice. that I just, the Picasso is beautiful, but, it's not my style. But I didn't know this yet. So the next day, I'm thinking, oh, what happened? Because remember, I'm emotionally attached to my decision. I'm emotionally attached to my outcome. I'm a glass half full. Hey, everything's a great sign thing. So Nikolai the next day goes back to the United Nations. He's bumped into another colonel that would be cooperating with us from the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, and says, Colonel, Jim, come on over here. My colonel goes over. Yes, Nikolai, what can I do for you? He goes, hey, tell your friends that's not the way to recruit a Russian general. So Jim comes to me and says, Robin, I had an interesting conversation with Nikolai this morning. He goes, does this mean anything to you? And I go, ooh. He goes, that's not the way to recruit a Russian general. I go, oh. Did you ask him what it was? He goes, oh, no, I didn't. I said, so that's the message. He wants to be recruited. So that's what it is. What did I fail at? He said no that time. Out of those 4 things, seeking the thoughts and opinions of others, talking in terms of challenges, priorities, and pain points, validating and empowering with choices. Where did I hit? Where did I miss? No choices, maybe. What's the other one? What's the critical one? Talking in terms of priorities. This is what we oftentimes guess at with the other human being, and we fail. This is why we've often experienced success, failure, success, failure, because we're guessing at the resource I'm offering services in terms of. I guessed that he was looking for retirement options. Was he? No, not with me. I tried multiple times. Bumped into his daughter. She was going out to college in California. He said, please don't talk to my daughter again. Went on a cruise with him. We tried relentlessly because he made the mistake of saying, that's not the way. I said, that means there must be a way. That's what we do behind the scenes, and that's the art form we try to put together. So, say again?
Did you land him again?
Nope, not him. But what's that give you? Reps. I love the process. There's nothing more. I got my goose. When I was running my behavior team, there's nothing more I loved in the world than strategizing human engagements. You would think in the world of counterintelligence, spy recruitment, that it's all about strategizing, manipulation, subterfuge, and deception. It is anything but that. Think about it. If you're about to put your life in my hands, if you even think in the remotest possibility in the world that I'm trying to manipulate you in any way, are you going to say yes and cooperate? Hell no. This is the most altruistic thing I've ever done in my entire life, and it made me better at realizing, reflecting on every time I failed, which is tons. You have to fall in love with the process. I love the process of trying. I love strategizing human engagements. There's nothing more exciting than seeing what I can do with everything possible to get you to light up from the inside out, and me to be part of that. How do I be that person? I walk through that door, you just light up. Every single person that we had on board, I'm good friends with today, whether you're a confidential human source for the FBI or we had you on board as a spy. I have a great relationship with every single one of them over 22 years with the FBI. Fantastic relationships because these are good people doing good things. It's funny, the people that, it's different because like the Robert Hansons that betrayed the FBI and betrayed our country, they're really bad wound collectors that had a lot of retribution to go for. The people I had on board that cooperated with us were not that way. It's really fascinating. But let's talk now, let's kind of shift. So this is partnering, that was collaborating with human beings, collaborating with artificial intelligence. A lot of you all have a lot of interaction with this, a lot of work with this, and so I just thought I'd kind of bring into what I did in my process for this, because I literally, again, this COVID thing, when you approach everything as a child, and you realize that if you don't keep on the front of the wave of change, it's going to pass you by. And it's harder and harder to catch up as that wave gets further and further in front. And so when I took on doing podcasting, I literally thought I was just going to be a podcaster forever. But I discovered a lot of things with podcasts. And I discovered, how to get better at interviewing. Even though I'd been doing it a lot, this made me even better at it. I discovered a lot of technology I'd been using. Where's my buddy who uses Descript also? Descript is a fantastic, I use Descript, I was using it this morning. And then when ChatGPT came out, I was initially one of the poo-poos of this. This is complicated, whatever. I'm doing all my own copy. I'm doing all this, all my own stuff. But then when I started tinkering with this, I was like, wow. Garbage in, garbage out. Good content in, good content out. It really became, and so when I embraced ChatGPT and AI as a collaborative partner, not a crutch, it really changed the game. It empowered me in ways, and I could go, but I won't because on time. It empowered me in ways in which I hadn't even thought of before. So my recent book, Unstoppable Alliances, I wrote it with ChatGPT as a partner probably about 4 weeks. The actual writing part was rapid because I had a fantastic writer. It took me 5 to 6 years in development to get to that point, though. Learning how to use the AI as a collaborative partner probably took me 6 months. Because it took me 6 months to figure out how to ask the right question, how to give it the right input. So here's my process, and I'll actually read one of my prompts I used with ChatGPT. My process was this. I had, luckily, life's arc, right? So my first book is self-published, and I wrote it myself. My second 2 books were I had a writer I worked with Penguin, Penguin Inkwell, which was Nikki Papadopoulos. I had Cam Stout, and also Code of Trust was also with Cam Stout. So I had a writer. I call him ChatGPT. that was Cam, right? And so this one, I literally thought of ChatGPT, all right, I know how to collaborate with another writer. Let me use ChatGPT as my writer. And what my writer did was this: when you're collaborating on a project like this, they help you come up with the questions that'll answer the ideas that you have. In other words, I came up with the content. I've wanted to write this book on alliances for a while. So it's natural evolution. I also knew the 8 principles I wanted to cover. And so I then go to ChatGPT after I learned how to ask the right questions. I said, what kind of questions do I need to answer so other people will understand this, and this, and this. So it came up with a bunch of questions. Then I said, create a detailed outline for this chapter based on this content I want to include like this. Comes out with a detailed outline. I then edit the outline it creates for me. I said, create questions for Robin to answer that answers this content for this chapter. It then created 10 questions. Those 10 questions become the 10 sections for the book. I then interview myself, asking myself those questions. I narrate those answers, which are about an hour per answer, into my iPhone as I'm walking, because I'm a walking, thinking person. I then take that, I plug it into Descript, which I learned how to use Descript, which actually makes it a transcription because of the podcast I've been doing. I then take that transcript. I then, from that transcript, use this question. Write an engaging and authoritative chapter section for the nonfiction business leadership book. At the time, it's called Alliance GPS, Guiding Principles for Success. Written in the voice of Robin Dreeke. ChatGPT recognizes me, so it can help me with my voice, utilizing this transcript from an interview with Robin. So it's in completely my content for 1, 3, or 400 word section. It then creates that section. I then say, do this, do this, do this, edit this, edit this, edit this. It then becomes a section of the book, next section. That's a collaboration. Completely, 100% my ideas, 100% all me. I then say, so I'm covering content I think needs an anecdote or story. Create an anecdote or story that covers this, 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 and this. Done. So it became my writer. Instead of having a couple-week lag time between my writer and me and going back and forth, and that writer, because Cam's voice is in my books. You can hear it's not completely me. This, 100% my voice. 100% my content, 100% original. I have no problem being very transparent with I use ChatGPT as my editor. It was literally my editor and my collaborator. 100% my voice, 100% every single idea, every single word is mine, edited in that way. That's how I collaborated. Yeah.
It's fantastic application of the technology, 100%, especially as a lot of us are battling similar things. It's stated usually that ChatGPT is not great at creative originality. My question is, as you went back and forth with your editor in the past, I'm sure there was critique and feedback and why this, why that. Did you see some of that getting lost or getting enhanced with using ChatGPT?
ChatGPT, as I originally said, if you give it an inch deep, it'll give you an inch deep back. That's why, like the first time I tried it, that's why it took me about 5 or 6 months to figure out what this is good for and what it's not good for. When I said create a chapter on building alliances by Robin Dreeke, go. It gave me surface crap. And you could put it out, and it's like, it literally was an inch deep. It says, do active listening. I can't tell you the number of times this thing told me to active listen. So I was like, actively, I'm so sick of using that word. I came up with, based on here and that, I said, we have a new word I use, active curiosity. So I came up with that, and what's active curiosity look like? I wanted to include this, this, and this, and then go with that. So it became, that's why the more content you give it to edit, the better the product is, because now it's completely yours. Now you can tell it to do anything, but the dribble it comes back with is really surface. Literally, I just put out a podcast this morning. When I put out a podcast, here's exactly how I create my shorts. When I do the shorts, which are the video clips, which are about 35 seconds long, I take the entire transcript from that. I put that into ChatGPT. I say, create a LinkedIn post for this content with a title, and I include the show notes with it as well, based on this author for a thing that came out today. You got to put, if you put good information in, and you ask the right question, it's like a genie in a bottle. You got to ask the right question, otherwise you get crap. And that's a lot of times too. Coming up with that phrase I used for that chapter section, I had 1,000 ChatGPT prompts for publishing I went through to modify that down to mine. And then I used that same one for every single section for consistency. And so it takes a lot of work to learn how to collaborate. But if you want to use it as, and that's so going through due diligence, when is someone using it, when is someone using it as a crutch, ask them. Tell them about your product. Tell them about what you wrote. I can tell you everything about every nuance of the information in my book, of my podcast, of absolutely everything. Did I have a writer? Absolutely I had a writer. Everyone has a writer. Did you not have an editor with the books you've written? And they help you with their process. I'm trying, so another principle of Unstoppable Alliances, what can you do to make your job easier? Every other book I wrote, I went to the publishers, my agent went to the publishers, hey, Robin Dreeke's got a great topic about this is why he wants to write the book, The Code of Trust, and blah, 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 blah. Are you interested in this book? I said, yes, we're interested in this book. So let's put a 1-year timeline, delivering manuscript, blah, blah, blah. Unstoppable Alliances, you know what's different? Here's my book. I'm done. Go. Completely flip. Why? I want to make it easier for you to publish my book. Here's the pain point. I knew all the questions that my editor and my agent would ask about the process. Who's going to be your market? Who's your direct audience? How are you going to sell this product? What's your publicity thing? And you know who helped me come up with all those answers? Caesar. Because I knew the questions asked. I knew all the content I would plug in. I said, and so my agent said, came up with, give me your marketing plan. I said, yeah, no problem, Nat, I'll have it for you tonight. The reason I couldn't do it at the moment, I was out on a walk. And then my original target audience because they also want to know your target, my original target audience was 30-year-olds that are mid-level in their business careers that are having some successes, not quite sure why. I want them to take it to the next level, go beyond their entry mid-level to the executive, C-suite level. That's right at that point. I took all my content, put it into Caesar. I said, Caesar, who's my target audience based on this? He gave me 6 more, and they were spot on good. Woof. That's what it's good for. Did I answer the question? Yes. I give what's called a narrative answer. Really long. I apologize. I know, right on time? Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Hopefully it's helpful.
Thank you.